Hello there, and thank you for watching this video. If we haven't met you already, I'll just introduce us really quickly. So I am Laura Dougal, and this is my friend and colleague, Sarah Turner, and we're both maternity return coaches. And we've come together to collaborate on this video series to take you through what a coaching journey might look like for a maternity return coaching package. And we've done that looking at sort of pre-maternity leave, through your maternity leave, and then now we're going to be looking at your post-return to work. So this video series is just to give some kind of flavour and some examples of things that might come up for you, and to give you some things that actually you might be able to take away from these conversations to implement yourself as well. This is the fourth in the series, so if you've missed the others, we'll pop some links below so that you can catch up and look at the other three videos that we've done as well. Okay, now Sarah's just going to take you through what we're going to talk about today.
Yes, and I think it's probably worth just pointing out this is our final video in this series. Have I got that right? Just checking. Yeah. I'm not making that up. And so because this is thinking about post-return, and obviously we're always really clear that what we're sharing in these videos is not exclusively these sorts of things that can come up. We're just sharing some of the typical kinds of topics that can come up in that kind of post-return conversation. So this is usually either towards the end of your maternity leave or actually those first few weeks and months when you're back at work. So in this video, we're going to be talking about boundaries and how you can set some boundaries and really manage that boundary between home and work. Going to talk about asking for help, which sounds really simple, but is so powerful. And then the third area is comparison and judgment, which we hear about all the time. And so starting with boundaries, really this comes up with how do I differentiate between who I am and what I'm doing when I'm at home, and how do I manage that with my work life, my work demands. And the way I often think about this is I kind of talk about bookending with my clients. So before you have a baby, obviously you can do what you need to do. If you need to work at 11 o'clock at night or get in at 6, or work weekends, you did what you needed to do to get the job done. And then one of the biggest changes that can happen when you have a baby is that suddenly your time is not your own. And so, as I say, I sort of think about it as this bookending, or your day becomes less elastic, is another way of thinking about it. So, your first bookend is baby needs to be dropped off or taken care of somehow by a nanny or whatever is your childcare setup. Then you go to work and you're at work until your day ends, whenever that might be. And then of course you've got the other side of that with pick up and bed and bath and, settling for the evening. And so your time is not your own. How do you manage those boundaries when you're used to having a much more fluid, much more elastic approach to work? Laura, what do you find when you have these kinds of conversations with clients?
I think there's so much in it, so we'll try and break it down for this conversation. But just in terms of COVID as well, not ignoring the fact that COVID has happened here. So the way that we're working, quite often at the moment, I'm working with people who have been off on maternity leave while COVID has happened. They're going back to work. The way that they're working has completely changed. They're maybe working from home more. So sort of having this dual, like, I work from home, I have my child at home, I do everything from home, sort of moving out of that. I guess as well, for me, it's about the why you want to look at boundaries. So in terms of knowing, I believe that when we have clear boundaries in place, the time that we boundary off becomes much more like productive or focused. So in putting that boundary to your work day, actually the time that you're spending at work is more focused. By just even saying, I'm going to finish work at X amount of time today, makes that time much more productive. It equally makes that time that you spend with your children, where you're much more present for them, so you're able to be there for them. But I also would say this isn't like a once and done thing. I think it's bringing it into awareness. Just to give just reminded me of an example. The other morning, I got home, done the school run in the morning, I walked in the house, I'd still got my coat on, I've got my bag across me, I've got my phone in my hand, checking my emails, walk into the kitchen, make a cup of coffee, notice the dog, open the door. And all of a sudden I was like, wow, I haven't even finished one thing yet. So it's like, take my bag off, take my coat off. And I'm just mentioning that because quite often it's, that saying of like, when the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. So sort of noticing it in the really small bits, for me, that was a real wake up of like, oh gosh, I've just really got very blurred in what I'm doing at the moment. Maybe I need to pay attention to my boundaries in other places as well, because I've just done 7 things in 3 minutes all at the same time. So that's it for me, is sort of noticing where are the boundaries blurred and what's the impact of that. So in terms of productivity or in terms of focus, like what's the benefit of looking at boundaries as well? And particularly, I think after having children, so easy, because having a child is a constant responsibility that doesn't ever go away. So it feels like that boundary can't even really be drawn. So it's about time where you're putting your attention.
Yeah, and I love what you're talking about there with the blurring of boundaries. That's the word that came to my head. It's all blurred, right? You know, what am I paying attention to at this moment? And I think what I often see in clients is, okay, so I'll kind of leave work at whatever time, 5 or 6, whatever, pick up child, go home, do what I need to do there, and then I'll log back on again. So that window of time of sort of 5 till 8 or whatever it might be, I haven't been working or haven't been on my emails, I'll log back on again and just pick up anything urgent that's come in. And of course, that's entirely a choiceful thing. But of course, if you're every night, then where are your boundaries? Where is your space for you to decompress or to unwind or to do some exercise or have dinner with your partner or whatever it might be? It's very easy for those boundaries to become really blurred until we actually really are intentional and go, right, actually, this is how I want to structure my life as I go back to work. Now I've got a baby to factor into it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think from what you're saying there as well, it's that having that open communication with line managers as well, to say, this is why, you know, I can only work until this time. Like, what's the priority? What should I focus on today? So sharing that this is my experience right now. Help me to be more productive. What shall we do?
Yeah. And just before we move on, because I'm aware of time, but I think on that point, you know, actually making a sort of bit of a deal with yourself, with your partner, with your line manager that might say, look, I'll log on after hours 1 night a week, you know, or, you know, maybe I'll come in a bit later, I'll leave a bit early on this day, but then I'll adjust my hour. You know, it's all about being creative around how you can best manage what your demands are at home alongside those demands at work, and just being really clear about what's okay and what's not okay, because ultimately that's what a boundary is, right? What I'm okay with this, I'm not okay with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I was like, and then, but I won't. We'll save that because we can talk about
do a full video on this.
And I think this is the thing, isn't it? You know, we're really doing a sort of a fast skim over these topics because there's so much in all of this, isn't there? But we will move on for now. So we're going to talk now about asking for help. And before we recorded this video today, I was thinking about like, oh, you know, what does this mean, I suppose, and how does that show up? And it really took me back to when I had my daughter, which is 7 now. It felt like everywhere I looked, there was this new saying that I'd never really heard before, that was, it takes a village to raise a child. And I think like that saying has got a really good intention of like, don't shoulder it all yourself. It's okay to ask for help. You can't do this alone. So I think it comes from a good place. But actually, I know from my experience, what that did for me was it made me go, oh my God, where's my village? Like, who's in my village? I don't have a village. Because my parents don't live close to me. A lot of my friends weren't in the same position as me. They either had their children or not had children. So actually, that sort of just coming into it, so skimming the top of it and saying, you know, takes a village. You can't do it on your own. And you obviously, you know, we all need help. But I think also that creates a sort of a shame almost, because I was like, oh, other people, everyone's got a village. I haven't got one. Like, where's my village? So then bringing that forward and having lived through that and now coaching other people around that, I found this is about slowing down, and rather than looking for your village and asking everybody for help, it's about really trying to notice what is the help that I need. And there could be lots. We instantly, I think, well, personally go to like, I need help around the house. It's that kind of help. But it could be practical help. It could be emotional support. It could be financial support. It could be help from your line manager. So you see already we're sort of getting into, gosh, there's lots of areas here that I might need some support with. You might not, but you might. And for me, it's about getting it out as a visual and looking at, if I write help in the middle of a piece of paper and then do some lines to what might that look like? And if we took like, actually, I need some help with practically managing how I'm getting everything done at the moment. Then you can look at, okay, so we're looking at practical help. What does that look like? It looks like housework. What does that look like? It looks like tidying and cleaning. It might look like cooking. You know, like there's lots of different things within that. It might look like putting the bins out. I don't know, whatever it is on your list. And then you can move into the solution bit of like, who can I go to for help? Because that might be highlighting to you that actually I need to have a conversation with my partner, because maybe before I had my child, our housework, the workload was much more equal. And then I see, and I know that you do too, is that when women go off on maternity leave, quite frequently what happens is you're at home. So you do everything. And then this change happens where you go back to work, and it's very difficult then to shift those chores and those tasks sometimes to even it out again. So it might highlight that actually this is a conversation with my husband or partner. It might highlight actually we need to get a cleaner, and maybe there's some paid help that I can look for. Maybe it's like I need to batch cook some things at the weekend so that in the week, do you see what I mean? So just sort of actually I can help myself more by doing something else. So it's not always that kind of, I think for me, asking for help conjures up an image of I need to be surrounded by people who are going to help me. But I think that image is unhelpful sometimes, because that isn't actually always the society that we live in today.
And I think there's also something for a lot of the mums that I coach around maybe not even noticing that they need to ask for help in the first place. So there's a lot of shouldering of responsibility. So it could be, you know, your point around stuff at home. I've been doing it for the last 6-12 months, you know, haven't occurred to me that I actually need to redistribute kind of how we run things at home. But also one thing I often notice is really high expectations, you know, that I can go back to work and I can hit the ground running. I'm going to pick up where I was before, and I'm going to be the best mum. I'm going to be there every night, and we're going to do bath time together, me and my partner. And, you know, like, we're just going to be awesome at everything, right? And I'm not saying you can't do that and that you can't be awesome, because you absolutely can, but it's a big ask. And actually, what am I prepared to compromise on? And that might be, I mean, I've had one client, or in fact more, where they have, you know, both partners wanting to do bath time every night. Lovely. But actually, you could choose to say, well, tell you what, you do Monday, I'll do Tuesday, maybe we do Wednesday together. And what do I then get? Oh, I get a night to myself. I could go out for drinks after work. I could go to the gym. I could just sit and read, whatever it might be. But it's recognizing I don't have to take it all on my shoulders. Like, we can share this. Like, this is a shared experience with my partner, if you've got a partner to share it with. And as you say, then thinking creatively. And again, I've had conversations with clients that, like, well, what can you delegate out to your nanny? If you've got a nanny, your nanny doesn't just have to do childcare. Your nanny can do cooking, your nanny can do laundry, your nanny can do, you know, various other sort of chores that you're happy for them to do, obviously. But it's really checking in with yourself and going, okay, hang on, what am I taking responsibility for that actually maybe I don't need to?
Yeah, completely. And this, again, this is something that I'm sure we could talk about for hours, because there is that stigma, isn't there, against asking for help, and what does that look like? And I mean, it's going to lead us beautifully onto thinking about comparison and judgment next, because that thing of like, oh, I should be able to do it all myself because they can.
He's got it handled.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I've had that, haven't you? Like at the school gate, or even from partners saying, well, so and so, you know, they seem to be handling it really well. And also, you know, Instagram, social media, there's so much out there that kind of causes us to think, my God, like, they've totally got it handled. Like, you know, why do I not feel as sorted, as together as that person? And we're very good at making up stories. You know, we're meaningless human beings, and we see things and we connect dots and we interpret them in a way that makes sense for us based on our own history. And it's very easy to make up a story that other people handle this. Why can't I? Other people handle it, you know, work full time. Why do I struggle with that, or whatever it might be? What do you notice?
Oh, sorry, you're asking me now. What do I know? yeah, absolutely. Sorry. In terms of comparison, I think that for me, this comes down to thinking about values. Can be a really powerful activity to do with clients. Thinking about, I've just finished working with a client who this comparison thing was just coming up again and again and again. And mostly it came from, she's very, very focused on her career, very ambitious, and her daughter goes to a school where predominantly they are stay-at-home mums. So every single day, she's going to drop her daughter at school. She's seeing these people, having, you know, got nice, they're nice people, having a conversation with them. They're going off for a coffee, and she's going to work. And she told me that almost every day, it's like, oh, should I be spending more time, you know, thinking about my child's social network? Should I be there at pickup every day? Should I be doing this? Because they are, and you know, they're coping without this. And so we spent that time. I always take a deep breath because it feels like it's so much, you know. So just stepping back and slowing down. And we did some work on her values and like what's important to her personally, what's important to her husband, what are their family values, what are they working towards. And at the end of the program, she said to me that was the best thing that she's taken away from this, is that the situation hasn't changed, but that she is now so much more clear on, this is how I live my life because it works for me. And there's no judgment for the other person. It's just that this is what they have chosen to do because it will work for them and works to their values. But it just sort of takes that judgment of each other away, and judging ourselves where we have this sort of, oh, I should be able to manage, or I should be doing more of whatever it is. Because some, you know, and you could use that analogy the other way around, couldn't you? And think they should, you know, there might be a stay-at-home parent who is looking at a working parent and feeling like I should be doing more by going to work. But I really feel like getting clear on your own values and why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah, and I think there's something really empowering about that. If I can be really clear on why I'm doing what I'm doing and how it's meaningful to me, then when I feel myself pulled or conflicted in some way, values act like a bit of an anchor, don't they? They can be really grounding. And, you know, so I mean, I've had, I think of an example now with a client where she was back to work, she was still breastfeeding, and there was like a work social event, and she was really pulled, like, I want to go home because I need to breastfeed my baby, but there's also this work social event and they're really important. Like, which one do I do? Where do I go? And her values were really helpful for her in that moment to remind herself, okay, do you know what? I've made a choice to still be breastfeeding now, and that's my choice. And so for the moment, what feels important to me is going home, and I'm going to miss that work event. And I appreciate there's a cost to that, and it's not an easy choice, but at the moment, that at this time, that's the right choice for me to make. It's not going to be like that forever. So in 3, 6, 9, 12 months time, that work event, I can go to it because I won't be breastfeeding at that point. But being really clear about why you've made that choice, why this is important to you at this point, just really brings that clarity when you're making those sorts of decisions, whether they're big ones or small ones.
Absolutely. And I think just then when you said, and this is the right choice for right now, I mean, that's just a great way to bookend that bit on comparison, because there is no right. And I don't know about you, but when I had my daughter, and I know I'm recognizing myself now that, you know, the drive I have to be right and to get it right and to make sure I don't make any mistakes. But really, that's been such a lesson over time of just like, oh, really, genuinely, there is no right way of doing this. Even the experts, you know, parenting experts, it is only an opinion. And there'll always be somebody else arguing for the other side, you know. So just understanding that actually was very helpful to me, of just knowing, there's no right way. There's only the right way for me right now. And like you say, that may even change over time as well.
Oh, absolutely, it does, you know, and it's unique. And I think it's just recognizing it's a journey. It's your journey. Your journey will be different to my journey, to the next person's journey. And that's okay. And that really, for me, is why coaching is so powerful, particularly at this point. It's creating the space for you to say, how do I feel? What's going on for me? What are my challenges? And how do I find my place here? You know, after everything that's happened, how do I find my feet, my place in this new world as a working parent? All the challenges I'm facing, and all the juggles and all the decisions and all the emotions, how do I find my journey on that? And that's where you and I, in our work, really create that space for women and all parents to really explore what their new identity is.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes it all worthwhile, doesn't it? That's the meaning, I guess, behind why I feel very drawn to the work.
Yes.
There you are as well. Is there anything else that you want to add on comparison, or should we?
Sure, there's lots more we could say, but I think we ought to wrap.
Maybe we'll do a complete video on these topics at a later date as well. So thank you so much for watching. So if you've got to the end of the video, thank you ever so much for watching. These are like Sarah said at the beginning, these are topics that we see and that we decided to share today as the sort of the top themes, if you like, that come up, but they're by no means the only things that we talk about. if there is something that you're feeling that actually it would be really helpful to get a better understanding, or just to hear a case study or to hear an opinion about this happening at the moment, please feel free just to be in touch with Sarah or I, or pop a comment below if you're on YouTube or if you're on LinkedIn. Just to let us know. Actually, it'd be really helpful to have a video on X topic, and if we can, we'll do one for you in the future to let you know. But yeah, that's it from us for now. I think we're going to put some links to LinkedIn below.
Yeah, and we'll give links to both our websites as well if people are interested in kind of following us or finding out more about each of us. But otherwise, thank you again. Thank you so much for being here, and we hope that these have been helpful.